We're rolling.
I'm really, really delighted to be here in Ray talking to you. I've watched what you've been up to and the whole barn community from afar for a long while. We've never actually met. I know I would have loved you to been there at 1000 Flowers, but I think this is the kind of best way to do it because you're in Brussels. You are spreading the gospel across Europe. It's brilliant. People have already seen the very first video that I saw of you when you were sort of explaining, and you did the farm thing, didn't you? And you had the sheep going out. So I really wanted to take you back to that and where it all started from. Where was the inspiration behind Barn and everything that you've been doing?
Well, the inspiration was the fact that we can't get broadband around here at all, and we really, really need it. And we built a Wi-Fi mesh in 2005, which we've run since then. And we found that we couldn't get to some people because of things like trees, and people don't like you cutting the trees down. So we just did an experiment in 2009, which only took about 18 hours in total, and we ran fibre from one farm to two more, and lit it and fed it with the Wi-Fi. So that sort of told us that it wasn't rocket science, and if a bunch of farmers could do it, then anybody else could do it. And that led to a bigger plan to get it to more people, because our network's quite small, it's only about 20 square miles or so. And what we want is right over the other side of the valley, the Trough of Bowland and the Loon Valley, where everybody else can't get it. Some of these people can't get terrestrial television, can't get mobile, so there's no means of communication whatsoever apart from a satellite. And so we've made a plan to run fibre through these 8 parishes and finance it ourselves, because nobody at the moment seems to want to help us.
I mean, that's interesting. Do you feel almost abandoned by the BDUK process, government, that you are, if you don't do it yourself, no one else is going to do it for you?
Yes, in some ways, but we understand why. It's not that we're bitter and twisted or anything, because the BDUK money has to go where there are more people to help. So we do understand that it's better helping 100 in a town than it is to help one farmer. And so yes, we do have to do it ourselves. That's what we feel anyway, so that's why we put so much effort into it.
Now, when you talk about effort, we were talking before about the way it brings your community together, that literally everyone gets in and digs.
Well, not literally everybody. The older people don't get in and dig, but they brew the tea so that the younger people can get in and dig, and the younger people are really keen to help the older people because they want a connection desperately themselves, and we need everybody on to make it sustainable in the long term. And it really has built cohesion in the community because everybody's now got to know each other working in the trenches. Yeah.
And it is literally working in the trenches.
Yes, yes. And the people who come to work in the trenches end up looking for the next bit of it, saying, right, we've got the ducting in, now what happens? And you say, well, now we've got to blow the fibre through. So they've laid this duct in, and this is the fibre that goes through. So they say, well, when you're doing it, and you say, Tuesday, so can we come and watch? And they do, and they end up blowing the fibre themselves into their own houses.
Now, one of the challenges I know is mice that you've
Yes,
had.
that's one of the main challenges, mice, who eat your ducting if you run it through somebody else's ducting. So we were all ready to go live in the second village just before Christmas, and when we turned it on, it wouldn't work. And we traced the fault to in the middle of this field where we'd run it through somebody else's electric ducts. And these ducts, unfortunately, hadn't been sealed, and the mice got in and decided they would eat ours. So we found the fault, we repaired the fault, and learnt our lesson, and we spread the word about that lesson, and we put it on our website so that other communities can profit from our mistakes.
Do you feel very much that you are a learning hub?
Definitely.
To spread, this is how you do it if you want to...
And this is how you don't do
JFDI.
it, yeah, yeah. So I think it's vital to let people know what we've done wrong as much as it is to let people know what we've done right. Share the joy.
Again, we were talking earlier, but you are giving people, it struck me, that people within your community new skill sets, aren't you? Because
Definitely.
people are learning how to install this.
Yeah, we've got a retired communications engineer who came to dig the trench to get it into his house and his church, because he desperately wanted it in his church. so that he could stream live church services to the people who can't get there anymore. It's one of his pet things. And he's really interested in the blowing and the fusion. So he's already learnt how to blow, and he blows the fibre for that whole village. And he's also doing fusion splicing, so that he can then go on to fusion splicing and then move on to other villages to help them. And he's doing all that just as a volunteer in all his spare time, as well as helping the farmer lamb sheep, which he loves doing. But then when we're in the position to pay people, these are the people who we will employ. You know, we won't be advertising for somebody to blow fibre, because these people don't really exist yet. But he knows how to blow fibre, and he'll get a job with us, and he'll get paid to do it.
Okay, clearly, you know, as the conference it goes on, one of the challenges is monetising in actually making a commercial model. Do you just see subscribing to your network as your basic business model?
At the moment, yes. I think we're very interested in things like Addiply, but we haven't got the time and the resources to look into it and investigate it and everything else. Our main purpose is to get this network built at the moment, and that's what we're all concentrating on. And because a lot of the people on the team also have full-time jobs, it's all their spare time that's going into it, and there just aren't enough hours in a day for everything we have to do. You know, we've got to get up all the paperwork side of it, and the accounting, and the network management side of it, and the end user support. We've got to build a team now of locals who are going to provide our support for people who get stuck. There's just so much to do, but we do realise something like Addiply could be a great bonus, especially for local businesses in the area, and anything that motivates people to use the service has got to be good.
I know when we watched the first video that, you know, the way that Skype was enabling you to stay in touch with your grandkids, etc., etc. But again, there within communities like this, upland, rural, you know, GP surgeries, clearly there's a huge advantage.
Yeah, and we have a local GP who is working with a university. I think it's the University of Northumberland, but I'm not sure. And they're trying to do Dr. Skype, and he's gutted because he has a reasonably good connection in his surgery in Kirby Lonsdale, but his patients don't have good enough connections. And so he can waste hours in a day trailing from one patient to another, or dragging these people into the surgery, when a face-to-face, good quality conference, video conference, through the person's television, you know, a big screen, because a lot of these older people don't particularly want to be bothered with computers, but if they had an iPad or a smart TV, he could have a quality video conference with them and actually see them and realise that they're not well enough to be dragged in, so he'd go and see them, or it's serious and they have to go to hospital straight away, or just talking to him is so reassuring to a patient that they'll feel a lot better and just wait while the tablets are delivered later in the afternoon, if that's all it is. But if the doctor can actually see the patient, that's half the battle.
Other challenges, getting across the river is the next one, isn't it?
Getting across the river, yes, we're struggling with that simply because we were hoping that the railway would let us across, which would save us an awful lot of hassle and digging and work and money. And Eric Ollerenshaw, our MP, is actually talking with the railways, and we're just hoping that they'll let us lay our duct across the railway. But it's all paperwork and health and safety, and we should just do it one night, shouldn't we? But we're a proper business, so we can't do that type of thing anymore.
Where do you want the network to go? How, in your own dream world, how big would this network become?
In my dream world, it would be the whole of the UK and Scotland and Wales and Ireland. But in reality, we just want to be able to be sustainable and pay our shareholders back, and just enjoy it because it's the fastest in the world.
So, you know, there must be 101 stories of people who have been lit up, whose lives have changed once you've dug to their front door, yes?
Yes, there are. There's going to be loads of case studies if anybody wants to sponsor some case studies. Yeah, the joy on the faces when they see it actually working is amazing. And also the misconceptions as well. We lit somebody up the other day and he said, it's not working. And so, can you come round? So I thought, well, I'm in the village, so I'll nip round. So I went to have a look, and He said, it's just not coming on my computer. I said, well, have you plugged a wire in from the router to it? No, my old connection used to be wireless. And I said, well, you haven't got anything on your computer that'll bring wireless in. And he hadn't. It was just plugged into his old BT router. So I said, you've got to get a wire like this into the back of your computer. And he was most insistent because his router from BT or Orange, I think it was, Wanadoo, had 3 aerials on. And he was convinced that it was feeding his computer. And of course it wasn't. And he thought ours would just feed his computer with wireless, but without a wireless adapter in your computer it won't. So you had to put a wire in.
So when you look at your own skill set now, that you were showing me you can splice and you can dice and you can do all sorts with this, you know, from lambing right through to 21st century. I mean, how many you could do the whole thing yourself these days, couldn't you?
There's a lot of things I can do on the network, things like splicing. I mean, fibre is so tiny and it's so easy to strip it and fuse 2 pieces together. I can do that, but I can't lift the lids off the access chambers. So there's lots of things on the network I can't do. I can't drive a digger, but I can lay the ducting in the trench, and I can show other people how to lay the ducting in the trench. And there's so much of it that's just strength, and I'm not a man, so I'm just a poor, weak granny who should be at home knitting. But this, splicing fibre, is more interesting than knitting, and it certainly beats ironing. So if I can go and connect somebody in half an hour onto a fibre, that sort of thrill for me when I go home, I'm so happy. Whereas I could knit something, but I'd be relaxed, a bit more relaxed, but I wouldn't be as happy as getting people online. I just love getting people online.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
It's a pleasure.